And recognizing that men and women would be returning home from World War II and needing to find work, Max and two of his business partners also started the Homonize, or Han Company, which has since grown into the second largest office furniture manufacturing company in the world. And both of these businesses are alive and well today, and both are still headquartered here in Muscatine on the banks of the Mississippi River. So having lived through 2 world wars, Max and Betty felt compelled to do something to ensure that the causes of conflict would never lead to the levels of violence the world experienced in those years. They decided to put their newfound wealth toward helping what was, at the time, a young new experiment called the United Nations. In 1956, Max and Betty created and endowed the Stanley Foundation, along with their 3 children, Dick, David, and Jane. And I'm told that at one point, Dick may have been involved with your organization. But in the years following his father's death in 1984, Dick ran Stanley Consultants and the Stanley Foundation until he passed away in 2017. His sister, Jane Stanley Stevenson, opened the Elizabeth Foundation for the Arts in New York City, Elizabeth Foundation named after her mother, Betty, and continues to serve as its executive director. So Max was an engineer, and he believed that the best way to solve complex problems was to bring multiple perspectives together. You probably know that this is the basis of how the United Nations operates, bringing people together for dialogue, and that continues to be the way our organization operates. In fact, in our 65-year history, constant, the ever-sharpening of our strategy to solve global challenges, a belief that inclusive dialogue and diverse perspectives lead to new and better ideas, and the involvement of the Stanley family. Keith Porter, there in the top right corner, Keith is our president and CEO, and he has led us through a number of changes in recent years, including shaping our culture, emphasizing a strategic approach to our work, and transforming our identity from the Stanley Foundation to the Stanley Center for Peace and Security. So we changed our name back in 2019. We think that this name just better reflects our purpose and our role in the world. And now, Keith has led us through the construction of a new permanent home here in Muscatine, which I'll talk about more in just a bit. Lynn Stanley, pictured there on the bottom right, Lynn is Dick and Mary Jo Stanley's daughter, so Max Stanley's granddaughter. She recently became the chair of our governance and continues to champion bold action and doing what makes sense, taking a pragmatic approach, and remaining nimble as an organization among constant change in the world. So in the years since our founding, the world has come to realize that to solve global problems, solutions need to be owned by everyone, not just the diplomats at the United Nations, but also the private sector and state and local governments and philanthropy and education institutions, and all of us as individuals. So if we're working to tackle the 3 global challenges we work on, climate change, nuclear weapons non-proliferation, and genocide prevention, it takes a lot of effort. It can't just be led by national governments. So I'd like to share a very brief video. It's just about 3 minutes long, but it offers a lot of information on the way we approach the work on the 3 global challenges which we currently focus on.
The world is a far-reaching place, filled with both beauty and struggle. But our global challenges only grow larger every day, casting shadows on our serenity and common purpose. Sometimes, these challenges seem insurmountable. But the key to scaling a mountain is to take the first step. This is the thinking that guides the Stanley Center for Peace and Security, an organization that partners with people, the private sector, organizations, and governments at all levels to take actionable steps toward a more peaceful world. Steps being the key word. Because change doesn't happen overnight, especially when it comes to implementing policy that takes on profound threats to human survival and well-being. With defined policy goals, the Stanley Center strives to mitigate climate change, halt the spread and use of nuclear weapons, and prevent mass violence and atrocities. These challenges require good global governance and collective action. That's why the Stanley Center starts at the foundation of change, people. Whether it's bringing together the policy community with those most impacted by these global challenges for dialogue, or creating opportunities for journalists to get to the truth and report effectively on topics essential to achieving peace and security, the Stanley Center facilitates space for more innovative and inclusive solutions to emerge. Diverse perspectives lead to new and better ideas. And from that collaboration comes opportunities for collective action and real policy progress on local, national, regional, and global levels. As an endowed private operating foundation, the Stanley Center has the freedom and flexibility to change course or try new things, leading to new levels of cross-sector collaboration and civil society engagement on policy. A secure and peaceful planet is possible, but it won't happen overnight. It needs a little bit from everyone. For more than 60 years, the Stanley Center has relied on partnerships of all sizes and scale to amplify the ideas of those committed to fair, just, and sustainable solutions to our shared global challenges. Each idea bringing us one step closer to a better world for all people.
All right. So as you learned from the video, and as I mentioned, the Stanley Center takes on global challenges that no government or organization can take on alone or should take on alone. Collective action means all elements of society, governments at federal, state, and local levels, civil society organizations, the private sector, and others all contribute their knowledge, perspectives, and resources to finding solutions together. And we define very specific policy goals in partnership and collaboration with these actors to find out the niche areas where we, as a small foundation in the Midwest, can contribute. And we revisit these goals every couple of years so that we remain current on changing technology and shifting global contexts. The way we identify and then share solutions with the policy community is by bringing people from different actors, from different sectors together for inclusive dialogue all over the world. And while the US is a very important actor, the US government, it's but one actor in a world filled with perspectives on how to find solutions. So in addition to the policy work that we do around the world, we do a considerable amount of work here in our local community of Muscatine. Our co-founder, Elizabeth, or Betty Stanley, believed passionately and ardently in broadening the horizons of young people and expanding their worldview beyond our city and our state and our country. She championed contributions to local education, and we're proud that this work continues today through our global education program. The goals of the program are to foster inclusive dialogue, celebrate diverse perspectives, and promote equity. And we do this by partnering with the local school district and educators through things like student exchange programs, international visitors and speakers, professional development opportunities for teachers, and supporting our high school's Model UN Club. And now I'd like to change gears just a little bit and talk about our new home here in Muscatine, one of the most sustainable and environmentally friendly buildings in the world. This is an aerial view of Muscatine. It's a city of about 20,000 people, and it's really lovely. In 2019, our board of directors, which as I mentioned includes several members of the Stanley family, were asked during a strategic planning process to decide whether the Stanley Center should remain in Muscatine. After all, our work takes us all over the world, and we're constantly asked, why are you based in Iowa, in a town of 20,000, and not in New York or Washington or Geneva? And the answer to that question and the answer from the board is really simple. It's because of our legacy. Max Stanley once said that the world is made up of thousands of Muscatines, and we value our location and the unique vantage point that it provides. So for the first time in the 65 years we've been in Muscatine, the decision was made to be permanently headquartered here. We had been leasing office space all of that time and had never had a home of our own. And so we began the search for an architect. Newman Monson, architects based in Iowa City, knew about our work in the climate change space and understood that we're a mission-driven and values-based organization. They introduced us to the idea of something called the Living Building Challenge, which really resonated with us. And our next step was to purchase our town's former library, which had moved to a beautiful new facility, leaving the old library empty and abandoned. And we thought that that was going to make for the perfect home for us. And so I'd like to share another short video with you about what unfolded after that.
If you were coming to the Stanley Center for Peace and Security today, if you walked out of our current entryway and turned right, you would be able to see the building right there, cross one street, and you would be in our brand new building. It's super exciting to think that by the end of 2022, we'll be moving into one of the most environmentally sustainable buildings in the world. The Stanley Center is a place where smart people come together to tackle some of the biggest threats to peace and security in the world. Climate change, the threat of nuclear weapons, the threat of mass atrocities and genocide. These are all things that affect everyone on the planet, and there's no one organization, no one country that can fix these things. It's going to take cooperation. It's going to take collaboration. The fact that we're located in the middle of the country rather than on one of the coasts or in some other world capital is a defining feature of who we are. And we felt that it was time for us to move into some new space that would really facilitate the way we want to work today, and space that would reinforce the kind of culture that we're trying to build at the Stanley Center. We knew we would need help in this project. We needed an architect who could really understand our vision and sort of turn it into this physical manifestation of a building. When we first met with Newman Monson, we really made a connection with them because they started the meeting by talking about their values. And so they came to us with some options, and I hadn't heard of the Living Building Challenge before this, but once they started talking about it, it became apparent that this was really the thing that aligned most closely with our values.
The Living Building Challenge is one of the most rigorous and comprehensive programs that exists today for sustainable design and construction. It's all about regenerative design, which essentially means it wants to give more than it really takes from this world.
There are a lot of other sustainable certifications or processes that you can go through. What appealed to us about the Living Building Challenge was the holistic aspect of it. It goes through a very thorough vetting process.
When I first heard about the Living Building, I was skeptical about it. It is an extremely ambitious project, and ambitious for a lot of reasons. It's new, it is unique. There are some metrics that are really hard to meet.
There are 7 basic requirements to the project, and those are water, energy, place, beauty, health and happiness, equity, and materials that all have to be met in order for the building to achieve the certification at the end. This is the first project like this in Iowa. There's actually only 29 in the world, and so everything about this project is going to be different. Every single phase of it's going to be different.
I think we looked at 50, 60 different potential sites in the area. In the end, we came down to a couple of locations in downtown Muscatine. One of them used to be the Muscatine Library. This building had sat abandoned for sale, for a couple of years. We looked at our values and said, yeah, it'd be nice to build a brand new building, but we could really do a lot more for the community if we renovated this building that would probably continue to sit abandoned for many more years. And also, we knew that the most environmentally sound building is the one you don't have to build. So doing a renovation would actually help us meet many of our environmental goals as well. We are 2 years into this project, really looking forward to that first, bit of construction equipment showing up. And there really is something sort of magical about taking all of these dreams and aspirations and values and turning them into something real.
When I was first starting to hear some of the language that we were using to talk about the beginning ceremony for this building, the phrase ground healing came up, which I think was the first time that I really thought very critically about the phrase ground breaking. Instead of breaking, we're pulling together and we are trying to create new out of old and do good instead of harm.
One of the things that became clear to us was that we would be pathfinders here, that we would be setting out to do something that not many people had done before. And while that would certainly have challenges, it would also create a path for others to follow.
Having this be the first LBC building in Iowa is instrumental. I think it can be really impactful.
There's definitely easier, less expensive routes to go, but someone has to be the first adopter. Someone has to be willing to pave the way.
Every cause needs a champion, and we're being a trailblazer.
I don't think I had any idea going into it exactly how big of a project this is, but if we can do this in our small town, in the middle of the country, then I really think anyone could do it.
All right, so before I show you the finished project, which I very much hope you'll come and visit someday, I want to share just a little bit more about the Living Building Challenge. As you heard in the video, in contrast with some of the other really excellent certification programs we all know about, like LEED, for example, the LBC doesn't just examine how a building can be built to do less bad, but how it can actually contribute positively to the environment. The more we know, or the more we came to know about it, the more we realized that this was just a perfect fit with our values of empathy and human relationships and responsibility, and offered us the chance to walk our talk on climate change. It is a highly ambitious program with only, as you heard, 29 other LBC certified buildings currently in the world. But with that high ambition and the cost premium that comes with being early adopters of the challenge, barriers for others to participate in the program are being lowered, and we're seeing that happen. So the design and construction industries are being reshaped as they learn to incorporate sustainability in some very new ways, and that's really exciting. As you heard Ginger talk about in the video, there are 7 core aspects or petals of varying complexity to the Living Building Challenge. The first petal is place, understanding the history of the land and incorporating natural ecology into the architecture. There's the water petal. So all of the building's potable water is captured from rainfall, stored and treated on site. And to achieve the petal, we helped our neighbors, a homeless shelter, reduce their water consumption by converting their faucets, toilets, washing machines, and showers into more efficient systems for them. The energy petal, solar panels on the roof and on canopies in front of the building and covering the alley, generates 110% of the building's energy needs. So we're actually giving energy back to the Muscatine grid. There's the health and happiness petal, so green cleaning protocols, providing options for work location within the building, offering connections to nature through greenery and a courtyard, and maintaining excellent indoor air quality, ensure that our staff and our visitors have a healthy and really pleasant environment when they're here. The materials petal is arguably the most difficult petal to achieve. Here we're required to divert demolition waste from landfills. And one way we've done this is commissioning artwork made from reclaimed material in the building that would otherwise have been thrown away. The materials pedal also calls on us to be mindful of the sourcing of building materials. Obviously, the further away you have to ship something, the more carbon emissions that comes with that. And that also includes making sure that any of the building's materials do not contain chemicals on what's called the industry's red list, ensuring that they're sourced from nearby locations. And that posed a real challenge for our architects and our engineers. Building materials that you normally would think of, like PVC pipe, had to be rethought. PVC pipe is very toxic to manufacture. So all of the buildings' piping is copper. So that's just one example of the ways that they have to rethink the materials. Two more, there's the equity pedal. So the building is universally accessible. It enhances the public space, and we utilized minority and women and disadvantaged businesses in all of our contracting and subcontracting. And then finally, there's the beauty pedal. So creating a building that is pleasant both outside and in. And here are some photos of our new home. We moved in June. June 1st, we had our grand opening with a series of public events. Here's the outside. You can see the solar panel canopy, and on the right, 2 large cisterns that are used to collect the rainwater that are used in our drinking water system. So when we were in the construction phase, people in town were really excited, thinking that Muscatine was getting a new brewery from the looks of those cisterns, but we had to let them know that no, that's actually for our water. This is the main atrium looking down from the 2nd floor. Notice the skylights and the 4 ficus trees that add tremendously to the air quality and just the overall atmosphere of the space. This is our courtyard where we grow a variety of lettuces, vegetables, and herbs. Much of what we grow is donated to the homeless shelter's food pantry, which is right next door. It's also just a really lovely place to work outside or take a break. Inside on the left here are a few conference rooms and the stairs leading to the 2nd floor. On the right, you see some of the indoor lettuce walls that are really popular with staff. So all year round, we can grow fresh lettuce and herbs. And then these are the 2nd floor where everyone has an equal-sized office. So whether you've been here 6 months or 30 years, you have the same size office. And all of the furniture is from Hahn, of course, the company started by our founder, Max Stanley, in the 1940s. And here's another shot of the exterior. We have a whole variety of more up-to-date videos and other content on our website if you're interested in learning more about it. But that brings me to the end of my presentation. And if I didn't talk too long, Darlene, I'm happy to take any questions that anybody has.
Can you stop sharing your screen?
Yes, good idea.
Yes, and I'd like to invite anyone to unmute, raise their hand, however they want to do that, and ask Mark any questions. I am just so impressed and with the facility, with the programs that you're doing, and I think it's amazing. I've been following it. That's why I started sending you emails that I wanted to hear more about it. David?
Thanks so much.
So great presentation. That first video with the graphics was just fabulous. I've never seen anything quite as good as that. My wife and I are in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, and so we're just a half a day away. We're going to come visit you next summer. We are both Rotarians. Rotary has 7 areas of focus, and you hit about 3 of them at least: environment, peace, health, women and girls. We need to do some kind of a collaboration between Rotary and the Stanley Center. And I'll be in touch with you about that in the future. But thank you so much for a great presentation.
Absolutely, David. My pleasure. I'm going to put my email address in the chat here.
Oh, good.
Well, yeah, I have it already. So
great.
So the one last thing. My club, Rotary Club, happens to be in Tucson, Arizona, where we're going in 3 weeks. And we are we are devotees of the peace pole movement. Mark, have you ever heard of peace poles?
No, I haven't. Oh,
Real quickly, a man in Japan put a peace pole out in recognition of the terrible things that happened with the nuclear weapons. There are now several million of them around the world, and we put them out in public parks, schools, and what it is a 6-foot tall pole with the words "May peace prevail on earth" on 4 sides in 4 different languages, and sometimes including Braille. You need one of those in that garden.
that sounds excellent.
I was hoping that Ruth might be able to, well, Ruth's got her hand up. Go ahead, Ruth.
What were you going to ask? I have one couple of questions. One is Iowa right now is facing a great deal of drought. And I'm not sure, I know the Northwest area particularly, and we are here, I live in Iowa City. Is that a problem at all for you right now?
As far as our rainwater capture,
Yes.
so our engineers did all of the calculations to find out how much water we were using before we moved, and adjusted that for the many gardens that we have here. We had about 2 inches of rain one night, maybe 2 weeks ago or so, and that was enough to fill the 13,000 gallons capacity that we had, just because so much of where the water falls is actually captured and funneled into those cisterns. So the entire roof, even the solar panels, the water that falls onto the solar panels are captured into a gutter system and filtered into those cisterns. And so far we haven't run dry. The Living Building Challenge actually tells us we're not even allowed to be connected to the city's water system. The only connection we have to the city's water system is for fire suppression. And that's just the city code thing. Makes a lot of sense. But knock on wood, Ruth, we haven't run dry yet.
Good. Well, I personally miss Dick and Mary Jo a lot because we would see them at Hancher. We had similar taste in music and classical music. Yeah. And of course, we're very proud in Iowa City of the Stanley Museum of Art, which is named for them. So that's very good. Yeah, they certainly have done a lot of good with what they had, and very nice people too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ruth, I was trying to find the email that you sent where you told about Richard's lineage so that folks might know if they were connected to Richard. Do you have that in front of you at all?
No, I don't, but I'll see if I can find it while you're visiting with some other things.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? Stephen?
Yes, I'm Stephen Stanley. This is my first introduction online to the Stanley Family Association, and I did not know about the Stanley Center until just a few minutes ago. I came expecting a conference or a discussion on lineage and genealogy, which I'm very much interested in, have been for 5 decades. But I have been studying the values of the Stanley families going back 9 or 10 generations. And I have to really applaud, Mark, what you said about the Stanley Centers being a value-based organization. And I believe you said empathy, living relationships, and equity. And I see a connection between that and the values of the Stanley lineage that I have studied for 5 decades. And I will cite you just 2 quick examples. My grandfather, Herbert Wine Stanley, on his deathbed said to his young grandsons, quoting Emerson, "Live your life so that when it comes your time to die, you can say the world was better for your having lived." In other words, make the world better. And my father, Sherburne Moore Stanley, on his deathbed said to his 3 sons, "Keep the family together and respect the diversity of the family and find the common ground between you." And I applaud the Stanley Center and want to know more about it because I see those values both in the Stanley family as well as in the Stanley Center. And I feel honored to be amongst you all today, even though I am an outlier from the New England Stanley line, not the Southern Virginia line, even though I live in Virginia. We're all connected somehow.
That's wonderful to hear, Stephen. Yeah, thank you so much for that. The Stanley Center was intentionally organized so that any of the descendants of Max or Betty Stanley could join our governance. And there's still a lot of involvement. We're starting to see fourth and even fifth generation involvement. And we go back and we revisit our core values every few years. And the family plays a huge part in deciding what those are.
And I think that, I don't know how much you know about Quakerism, Mark, but I think that Maxwell and Richard's passion and how they have directed their life's work really does have some basis back in Quakerism in terms of, social justice and that of God in everyone, taking care of the environment. It's just all deep seated. I think this is what Stephen is saying.
Yeah.
That all of us, I think, well, at least I certainly know I was raised around, just being conscious, being aware of our footprint on this planet. And that's what I think the Stanley Center is just doing a fantastic job of being in awareness, and the things you're doing with the sending the vegetables or what have you to the homeless shelters, or just being conscious and conscientious about your footprint is just amazing. I just kudos to you guys. Just very gracious.
Thanks very much, Starling.
Yeah. Anyone else have any? Dawn?
I'll preface the question with a comment, a personal observation. 45 years ago, I was teaching college students the principles of climate change. This is not something new. The science is not new. And of course, it's progressing. But 45 years ago, climate change was in college environmental science textbooks. Okay. So some days when I see what I see on television, I think, oh my gosh, that's 2 generations. Did I waste my time? I don't know. All right. So now the question for you has to do with resistance to change. And when I think about that, I think it's easy for us to think about automobiles, about transportation. And we all know what's going on right now with the gasoline to electric vehicle transition. And what we hear if we turn on television or read or talk to people, we very, very frequently hear, oh my goodness, we can't do that. It's going to cost jobs and it's going to be too expensive. Well, and of course, if watching television was like a Zoom meeting, I would raise my hand and ask that person to answer this question. Suppose you had been around 1895 or 1900. There was a major change in transportation about to come your way, right? And you were going to put a lot of people out of business. You were going to put horseshoe makers out of business. You were going to put wagon wheel makers out of business. You were going to put wagon makers out of business. And that was big business in those days. So suppose that argument had won today, where would we be now? Well, okay, getting to the point, and I don't know, this may be outside of what you do, but the question is, do you sense any significant resistance to the changes you're proposing?
All of the time. Absolutely. One of the things we talk about in our climate change work is what's called the just transition. And just transition means getting away from fossil fuels, coal, oil, even natural gas, and doing it in a way that's responsible and cognizant and takes into account the workers in those industries and the ripple effects that shifting those industries is going to have. And so we talk about a just transition means, making sure that the solutions we're proposing keep those people in mind. and don't have any sort of negative consequence for the work that they're doing. And it's funny that you mentioned climate change. So Max Stanley wrote a book, Managing Global Problems, in 1979, and talks very much about climate change. We talked about the environment quite a bit in the 80s, but climate change was still not quite on anyone's mind. But it was on Max Stanley's mind, and there's kind of proof in the writing there. He also wrote Waging Peace, which came out in the 1960s. And he had sort of a different mindset in the 60s. I think he was influenced by the changes in the world that he was seeing, certainly through Vietnam. And then he also wrote The Consulting Engineer, which is very boring if you're not an engineer, but is still used in engineering classrooms all over the world, I'm told.
Oh yeah, I was in college during the 60s, and when we would leave a classroom building and see people out on what we call the brickyard at NC State, there usually would be a group or two of people huddled around, and I always knew that they were discussing and arguing maybe about one of three things, either civil rights or climate change. Mm-hmm. It was, my point is that at least young people, and I don't know how young people feel about these days. We don't hear much about that. But boy, in those days, young people were changing the world in some ways. Some of those were good, some not, maybe.
Makana, hi.
Mark, I was so impressed by the video that was mentioned earlier, by the diversity that you showed. This is one of my big things, is making sure that images show the diversity of our people. And I apologize, I missed, I'm hoping I missed only the first minute or so of your presentation. But what I didn't hear was about any involvement with the Native American community in Muscatine, and especially as that has to do with Stanley family history.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked about that. So, and through the Living Building Challenge, one of the aspects of the place pedal is to be sure that you understand the land on which your new home is located, and that required us to do a lot of work and a lot of research to understand and make meaningful connections to the Native communities here in Muscatine. You might be familiar with the Meskwaki tribe, who are landowners in Iowa. They had 2 settlements on either side of Muscatine, and as part of the artwork that we did with reclaimed materials from the building, we created the Tree of Accountability. You can learn a little bit more about that on our website, but it's the tree made from materials reclaimed from the renovation. The leaves are made from reclaimed library books, and on them are promises from settlers to Native communities. We've asked them to write out what they're committed to doing for Native communities. And also we've had Natives or Indigenous people write what they'd like to see from settlers, from us. And so the Tree of Accountability is meant to be not just recognition of the fact that this once belonged to Native communities, but is actually a meaningful dialogue between what we're planning to do and what we're pledging to do in partnership with them. I showed the first of 3 episodes of the video series about our building. If you watch the 3rd episode, there's a lot of detail about our work with Indigenous communities here in Iowa.
Thank you.
Yeah, during that process, we called it the let me think, the tree of acknowledgement. And as we were building it, we realized that acknowledgement isn't quite enough. Accountability is what we're really after. So we changed the name a little bit through the course of the project.
More and more when I go to events or Zoom into events, folks are acknowledging the land that they're on. It sounds like you all are aware of that and perhaps doing that too when you do your work. That's good. Yeah. Anyone else?
The work I've been doing lately on Quaker history is that I'm impressed. There seems to have been a general impression that among their other characteristics, Quakers tended to be pretty smart people. And so I'm glad to see that we still have some, I don't know, Quaker or not, but still have some smarts in the family.
Ruth?
I did find it, my memory isn't so good, so I have to look. Richard Holt is the son of Claude Maxwell Jr., Claude Maxwell, Levi Murat, Moses, Thomas, John, and Thomas. Or you can go the other way, Thomas, John, Thomas. Moses. So that's the line that that the family is related to the immigrant ancestor.
We're all cousins.
Yep.
There is a biography of Max Stanley. I just happen to have all these books hanging, and it was written in the late 80s, and goes a little bit into his lineage if you're interested in that.
How would we access that? Is that on the website, y'all's website?
So that's a good. The book is still in print, but we have lots and lots of copies. I'd be happy to send you one if you're interested. Just drop me a line.
Okay, and just a reminder to folks, I think Mark said he did put you put your email in the chat, right?
Yes, I did. Yep.
If anybody wants to get that and communicate with him, it is in the chat. Oh, yeah.
See 30 or 40 or 50 or 100 copies, used copies of many, probably millions of books, go to bookfinder.com.
Any other questions for Mark?
Concern about how difficult your job is with without getting into politics too much. I know that you have some challenges sometimes because a lot of us really believe in diversity and environmental and so on, but that isn't true everywhere. Is that making your work more difficult in some areas?
One of the sort of blessings about our work or our approach to our work is that so changes in the administration, whether we're working for our causes or against our causes, frankly matter less to what we're trying to accomplish, because we're in partnership, we're in dialogue with people all over the world who are looking for objective solutions. We try to take the politics out of it. I'm sure you can guess what side of the fence we're on when we say that we work on climate change and nuclear weapon non-proliferation and genocide prevention. but we're a nonprofit organization, so we're apolitical completely. That's one of the requirements by the U.S. government. But it's a world full of perspectives, and we're just trying to bring them together to find the best solutions and new solutions. Okay.
Mark, I'm just curious, how in the heck did you find the Stanley Center?
It's a funny story.
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I was working in Washington, D.C. I was a lobbyist actually for and on behalf of Iraq War veterans who just believed in contributing back to Iraq and its future. And I had a fantastic intern who left and took a job at the Peace and Security Funders Group, of which the Stanley Center is a member. And when the interns, when the executive director of that organization called me for a reference check, we just really hit it off. He said, you know, there's this place in Iowa called the Stanley Center, and they're looking for a communications director. You should really check it out. So it was totally by happenstance. I had never been to Iowa before. I grew up in Pennsylvania, Quaker country, yeah, it just happenstance made my way here.
And I think it would be interesting for folks just to know, tell us your kind of vita. I was just fascinated to hear where your degrees are from and so forth. How about share that with folks?
Oh, sure. So I went to American University in Washington for undergrad. I took several years and worked in public health in West Africa and in Philadelphia, and then missed the international component to my work. So I went to Columbia University in New York and studied international security policy. And I did a follow-up degree in Paris at the Sciences Po, or the Institute of Political Science in Paris, before heading back to Washington and ultimately Iowa.
Great. Any other questions or comments to Mark or for Mark?
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you all so much. It was really nice to share some time with you today. My email is in the chat. Any more questions or something comes to mind, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Well, I think we have one more question. How many employees do you fund projects?
Yeah, so we have 26 full-time staff. And one of the reasons we changed our name from the Stanley Foundation to the Stanley as a grant. But we're set up a little bit differently. We're a private operating foundation, which means that instead of giving money to others to do work, we fund ourselves to do the kinds of work and the projects that are aligned with our strategy.
Great. That's so great. Anything else? Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you, darling, for the kind invitation. Yeah.
And to learn more, and send our greetings back to any Stanleys that you run into.
I absolutely will. I absolutely will. I can't wait to let them know that I was able to join you today. Have a nice rest of the weekend, everyone.
All right. All right. You too. That was just amazing. All right. So what I'd like to do now, we've got about 30 minutes left. And what I'd like to do is go around the screen and have you introduce yourselves and tell us where you're zooming in from. And why don't we start with Mark Stanley? I'm just going to look at my screen and go across.
Hello, Stanleys. My name is Mark Stanley. I live in Boone Grove, Indiana. It's close to Valparaiso, Northwest Indiana. And I'm third generation here in this area. And we all pretty much stay around close, except for my brother James, which is in the middle of the screen. He made it to Albuquerque. But I've been trying to follow the genealogy. I think I've only been with the Stanley family now for maybe 4 years, something like during the COVID, beginning of the COVID. So I I want to commend you, Darlene, and David and Joan and Ruth, big time Ruth, for getting us all together, keeping us all together. Awesome work. Thank you.
Good. Charles,
Mute.
need to unmute. There you go.
Okay, you got me now?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm Charles Stanley, retired school counselor. Live in Burlington, North Carolina. So my family hasn't gone very far from the Greensboro area. I'm eighth generation under the Thomas, James, Micajah, Isaac, Charles, Andrew. The next generation, one of them is right over here. That's Laura Stanley Harlan.
Glad you're here, Laura.
Well, that's
good.
My sister's going to be moving to town soon from Georgia, and I'm trying to get her to, she's retiring. So, like, get involved with the Stanleys. So,
That's right. That's right.
It's great to see everybody.
Good. Thanks.
Hey.
And my mom's here too.
Linda, where are you?
Okay, what's your...
Okay, and Laura, of course, is ninth generation in my lineage, and her sister, Carol. Yeah. So from now on, say a prayer for Ukraine.
Thank you, Charles. My dear friend Dawn is next from down east. Dawn?
Sorry. Charles Wilburn, Jay Romulus, Donald Wayne. Let's see. And here's a bit of number trivia for you really quickly with regard to Strangeman Stanley. Ruth Strangeman Stanley. 327 great-grandchildren.
Okay. Wow. Thanks, Don. Jim Terry from Pittsburgh.
Yes, Thomas, Zachariah Jr., John, Fielden,
Virginia, sorry.
Yeah, yes, near the Blue Ridge Parkway. Yeah.
How many folks did you have this year?
I have no idea. I wasn't there.
You weren't there. Okay.
No, I'm not traveling much these days.
Didn't someone put a photo on the Facebook page? Was that
They
from
may have. I asked them if they would, but every year
like there were 35 or 40 people in the photo.
Yeah, every year at Medizzadan, Virginia, the Zachariah descendants get together up at the Bellspur Baptist Church, I think it is.
Yeah, the interesting thing about those Stanleys descended from Zachariah Jr. He did not stay there very long, and he and most of his family moved to Illinois, and so there was only 2 children left in Virginia when he moved. So it's a little split family there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Thanks.
one of the families lived right next door to the church.
Yeah.
So
Okay, Denny. Denny, you're up next. Welcome. Go ahead, you're unmuted. I think. I can't hear you right now.
Come back to him.
Danny, are you able to? We can't hear you. Yeah. Well, we'll come back to you. Al's checking in, I think, from North Carolina as well.
I'm Al Ward from Raleigh, North Hills in Raleigh, and I'm from the northeastern part of North Carolina, and I'm a part of the Stanley family by a relative in Diana Stanley in Guilford County. And she is related to the in Guilford. She's related to the Perkins and the Pope families, and she is my grandmother's Hattie Elliott. She's my grandmother's. She's the grandmother of my grandmother, and I go through her great grandfather is or rather Diana Stanley's father is Shadrach Stanley from Greensboro, Guilford College, and Shadrach Stanley. They were from the obviously from the Hanover County, or whatever name of the county was. And I go from Shadrach to John to Thomas. So my grandmother's mother, Diana, is the let's see, what was it? I think she's the second great granddaughter of Thomas. I've also done a history of my grandparents, and when I started the history before Guilford College, and I didn't know how I was. Research was done, and I found out, and of course I'm like I say, go back to John, and I have a great nephew that lives in Iowa. He's Robert Parker, and my nephew there has moved there to be with him. So I do plan to mention to them about the Stanley Center, and
that would be great.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, Karen.
Me, Karen?
Yes, you, Karen.
Okay. I'm Karen Stanley Gibson. This is the first time I've met with the group. I live in Hillman, Michigan, which is about 75 miles south of the bridge. And my daughter has moved back to North Carolina. She now lives in Goldsboro. She's assistant athletic director at Mount Olive College. I'm kind of sounds like from a different line here. My father was Kenneth. My grandfather was William, John Perry, Wyatt, Elijah, and I know the rest from there, but I can't remember them off the top of my head. So I'm interested in being able to see everyone that I never knew was around.
We're glad you joined us. Thank you. Richard?
Okay. Yeah. Hi. I'm Richard Miles Stanley, and I guess I am ninth in the Thomas line. I'm going to start from Thomas, James, Micaiah, Isaac, Charles, Andrew Lindsay, Lindsay Seymour, Richard Grayson is my father, and of course me. And my wife, Carrie, and I live in Sophia, North Carolina. We've lived here for 26 years. It's kind of like a second home because I've lived in Greensboro pretty much as much time as I've lived here. I guess I've lived in Greensboro for probably 30 plus years. And I love Greensboro. And it's so neat. I have retired since last year. Last December, I retired. And I now have a part-time job driving little kids back and forth to school, special needs kids, back and forth to schools all over the county, between Randolph County and Guilford County and the neighboring counties. And these are where they started out, and then they went to a different county to live, but they want to keep them in the same school system. So it's kind of rewarding. And I still drive, and I drive all over the place. And now I actually drive in Greensboro, which I enjoy, because I don't get to see Greensboro much since I'm way down here in Sophia. It's only 20 minutes away, but you know, with gas being so expensive, I don't take a joy ride to Greensboro whenever I want to. So now I get to do it and get paid for doing it. But I guess this is the second time we've had our Zoom meeting, and I've been able to join you. And I'll be happy when maybe we can have the Stanley reunion a little bit closer to home, and we can actually attend in person if that's going to be something that we're going to be able to do.
I was just working on your Micaiah. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just working on your Micaiah last week or so, and quite a few of Micaiah's folks stayed here in North Carolina.
Yeah, we weren't too much of explorers, I guess.
Well, you were Tar Heels.
Yeah, we're Tar Heels through and through. You know,
You were stuck to the land.
Yeah, what is it? I'm a Tar Heel, Tar Heel born, Tar Heel raised. When I die, I'll be a
Tar Heel dead. There you go.
Which that won't happen anytime soon. So, but anyway, I'm enjoying retirement. It's a little new. It's different when you're getting up every day, going to a job. Well, the job I did before, I was driving all over the country, basically, presetting Generac generators at people's homes. And I was all over the Southeast, and I'd be out for a week and come back on Fridays. And so, but now I just stay local, and then I get to come home at night, and that's great.
Well, that's great. We need to move on. We're running close on time. Ruth?
Mute.
Yeah. We just had a small cousins reunion of our fairly immediate family. This is in the Thomas James Strangeman line. That the 8th generation, my father, Alfred, had a brother by the name of Adrian, and the descendants of those two brothers got together in Morgantown, Indiana, which is a very, very small place south of Indianapolis. I think we had about 30 people there. And most of them live in Indiana. They surprised me with a 90th birthday cake, which I really appreciated. I'm not driving long distances, but my two of my cousins from Iowa took me with them out there, and that was wonderful. The other really nice thing was that I was able to take quite a number of journals and genealogy journals and books to my cousins to be delivered to the Earlham College Library in Richmond, Indiana. And they were happy to get them. I have a whole corner of our bedroom that had been stacked with boxes ready to go to them that is now empty. So that was really nice. I'm still doing some genealogy, but have a little bit more care of Ken and some other things now. He is doing well, but our lives are a little quieter than they used to be. And I'm related through 3rd generation, both Strangeman and Elijah.
And just so folks understand or know that throughout the years in the association, Ruth has been our genealogist. So if anyone has queries and so forth, she's been able to research things for folks, and she's just been our point person for
I think of her as my beloved volume 6.
Now she's also produced a volume. Yes.
Well, I certainly am happy to help anyone when I can. So.
And we appreciate it. All right, James. Albuquerque James.
Yes, I'm sure that you've heard from my brother Mark there, so I don't know how far back we go. I do know that from the Northwest Indiana, they came into, I think it was Hardin County, Kentucky. I think that was the Wild West at the time. I do notice that when I went down here in south of Albuquerque, there's a place called Fort Craig. And what happened was during the Civil War, that there was a group from the South were going to try to take New Mexico, and they came up there and they had a little bit of a fight, and then they were thinking about going to Fort Craig and attacking, but so what they did was they took guns that were made out of wood. They fashioned them like guns, and they painted them, and they put them up so that the attacking troops would think that there was more weaponry, and they called those Quakers guns.
Quaker guns.
That's an oxymoron, sort of.
Yeah. So that's about all I can tell.
Taffy heralds in from where?
Palos Verdes, California, Southern California. One of the largest crazy cities in the whole United States, and they're nuts here. Maiden name is Vita. My line goes Thomas Zachariah, his second wife Susan Mendenhall, John, Catherine, Rachel, and she married a Bidwell in 1815. So that's where my Stanley stopped. But we've been to the Zachariah reunion, love the place, love the people. And it was interesting. No one knew where Zachariah was buried except down the street and turn left. Well, we went down there. We actually have the site marked. They have a big plaque there. So my husband marked it so we can give you the exact coordinations if you can't find him. But the place there is great. I love the city. I love the area. We've camped there many times. We used to stay at June's place that she lived right off the main drag also. She was a great hostess. She took us all around to the neatest places when we were there. I miss a lot of the Stanley reunions, which we've had a great time. My husband doesn't drive anymore. for 30 years, so I am stuck in Southern California. You can't get out of Southern California without going on a freeway, so I'm basically stuck where I'm at. But my daughter does come to visit. But all my Stanleys, they stop at 1815. But it's just interesting to meet all the neat people that we have. And like Ruth, I'm willing to research anybody, anytime, anywhere. I've got all the books also. And I have to decide where am I going to donate these books when I'm gone. My kids don't want them. And I have, you know, the whole set that we have had made. So anybody who doesn't have volume 1, it's available. And if you are a Stanley, you need Stanleys started that we know of into the United States. And to me, that was a very important volume that everybody should have. And for our New England Stanley, back in the late 1800s, when 1980s, when I first started coming to the reunions, I was online and I was inviting somebody on a Stanley, and I invited him to our reunion, and he was in New York, and he says, "We're not part of your Stanleys. We're not interested." So I just, okay. So I stopped inviting anybody on the New York side or any New England side Stanleys, because I didn't want to get, you know, balled out. But if you're a Stanley somewhere, you go back far enough. And if these people don't understand, trace it back and see where you connect, because eventually maybe it is in England you connect. But so far, you're the first New England Stanley that's willing to join us, and I just say welcome.
Don't uninvite me, please.
No, you are definitely welcome. But I'll tell you, I just stopped inviting them when they started chewing me out, and I thought, what can of worms did I just open?
Thanks,
No,
Taffy.
we'll trace your line. We're very happy if anybody needs help.
Okay, Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff Dunnigan. I am in the James line. My great grandmother was the last Stanley with the name Stanley in the line. I live in Wichita, Kansas, but currently I'm in my RV in Lebanon, Ohio.
Oh.
And I'm kind of looking forward to the future with the Stanley get-togethers around the country that I can attend. The only one I've attended face to face was the one that was held in Wichita about 20 some years ago.
Lewis's.
And that's when I joined the association.
Well, I'm glad you're here today, and we are going to be, if we can, you know, I know we're running close to 5:30 here, but if we can get to our business meeting, we are going to want as many people as possible to be able to meet with us in another meeting as we discuss the future of this organization. But hopefully we'll get to that in a business meeting. Let's go on to, we got a couple more people to go. Beth, you want to introduce and say how you're connected?
Well, I married a Warrington whose mother was a Stanley, and she loved the Stanley reunions in Indiana. She would be happy to know what's happening with the Stanley family. And I don't know, since I lost your cheat sheet, Darlene, I can't say how it goes, but
well, Beth's husband and I are second cousins, and so I can vouch that it's a pure lineage.
Okay. Thanks. I'll relay to him what I've been enjoying today. It was very, very interesting.
Well, send my love to
I will.
Floyd.
Thanks.
Lori, welcome. Good to have you again.
Aloha from Hawaii.
Aloha.
Yeah, Makana's from Hawaii too, but she, I noticed she had to leave the meeting today.
Yeah.
Okay, I go back 8 generations. Thomas, John Thomas, Joseph, Timothy, Clyde, Albert, then me. And little by little, we somehow got out to Hawaii a couple generations ago.
Awesome.
What island are you on, Lori?
I'm on Oahu.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so not Maui where they have the devastating fire. It's awful. Yeah.
Yes.
Oahu.
Yes. Okay. We certainly have been praying for Hawaii or for
Maui.
devastation there. Yeah.
Yeah. They need it. We need it. Oh, I know you guys are running late, but I still questionable for me as far as at that Timothy Point and Clyde, never really got documentation. When Timothy died on Ancestry, it's something else that I think it's they say a different date, and I think something else. So that's still a big question for me.
David and Joni. Sorry, I
I'm-
think of you as a unit.
That's okay.
So I'm David Fawcett. My wife Joni's down there somewhere. We live in Prior Lake, Minnesota. We're just about to go to our second home in Tucson, Arizona. My line is, I have two. Thomas James Strangeman, Michael, Aaron, and Maria Emily Stanley, my great-grandmother from Spiceland, Indiana. But Aaron, who I just mentioned, married his cousin. So my other line is Thomas, James, Elijah, John, Mahala, the cousin, and Maria Emily Stanley.
And Joan?
Well, I'm in Prior Lake, Minnesota, and been part of your the Stanley Association for I'm not sure how many years. I've been to a couple of reunions. David and I hosted a reunion here in Albert Lee, Minnesota. So we had several from the Midwest here with that reunion. We have another cousin here that actually is in Prior Lake, Minnesota. As David had said earlier, we're Rotarians. So I was at my Rotary Club and had come back from our winter home, and I saw Dan Stanley. He was on with us. He's actually, I think, in Paris right now. So he's on vacation. But I said, Dan Stanley. And so I related some of it. And he actually, the next meeting, he came back and he actually has the first volume. I mean, who knew? Living in the same town, we live like 5 miles apart. I mean, what a coincidence.
Yeah.
So Stanleys are, all in the niches of communities.
Yeah, great. I actually need a break. I need to go to the restroom. And so what I'd like to do is, can everyone stay on a little longer? It's going to be past 5:30. Is that going to be okay with folks? Okay. I'm going to run to the restroom and then we'll start our business meeting. So if anybody else wants a little break, we're going to take a couple minute break here right now. Okay. Okay.
Great.
Still there?
Where did Richard go?
You might turn it on.
Oh, he's
Is he still there?
yeah, left.
Bottom row. You have to use your mouse. No, let me hit you. No, that you're talking.
Hey, Richard, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
hey,
I hear you.
wait, have you been to Saluda lately?
No, I haven't. I know we
You have
have
a
a lot of cousins. We have a lot of cousins up there in Saluda.
I know Joe and I, we communicate from time to time. And,
Okay.
so you and I go the same lineage.
Yes, I know. I was noticing that. And you're only a little ways down the road from me in Burlington.
Right, not far away. But yeah, I've had some good conversations with Joe over the years.
Yeah, he's quite a conversationalist.
Was your dad Richard?
Yeah, Richard Grace business, Greensboro Electric
in
and
Carson?
Green.
Wow, that's Stanley Center. It is amazing. Well, I didn't even know about this. Really?
Maybe somebody will make that.
Well, not Roman, but just in general. Like, why didn't we know that? Anyway. Yes, we need to talk to Mark Seaman about the Rotary thing, how if they've even working with anybody. And then the peaceful, rural, American.
I just had to check the football game. Iowa is losing to Western Michigan 7-10. So it's not looking real good right at the moment. Some of the rest of you probably have games on today.
For us Carolina fans, Carolina is leading Minnesota 21-10.
Oh,
all right.
Uh-oh.
Spoiler alert.
Mm-hmm.
Lori, David and I are going to be in Maui in March. As long as everything is okay. So.
Yeah, I think they're trying to bring back visitors.
Yes, I know.
Yeah,
At first we didn't want to
the
mess, but
economy. Yeah, the economy really needs it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can come over to Maui. We can get together and have dinner.
I had a chance. I had a chance to go in June. So we scattered my mom's ashes on the Big Island where we scattered my father. But and then my sister wanted to take a side trip to Maui, and she invited my husband and me to join them, but we decided not to. We just made a quick 2-day trip to the Big Island, then came back to Oahu. And so she's glad she was able to go because she stayed in Lahaina, and she was just, thinking how beautiful it was, and the banyan tree, how beautiful it was, and just thinking, I hope nothing ever happens to it. But she did notice too a lot of brush. She goes, "Ooh, that's a lot of dry brush. That's not good." And then a month later, that happened. Yeah, she's glad she got to. I wish I got to go, but
yeah.
First, people were saying the native peoples were saying don't come, but now they're saying please come. We need your tourist dollars, but stay away from Lahaina.
Yeah,
there's
right?
The gawkers.
I'm thinking if you look at Lahaina, I mean, at least from what you can see, that's still they're trying to recover, ashes. People got incinerated, hotter than being cremated. They'll never find some people. They're just not even the dogs can detect that already. But yeah, certain places, I mean, you just can't stay. They need the hotels. I think right now for the people who are displaced, they're trying to bring in, I think, alternate type of, portable housing, try to get them situated. You can't rebuild anytime soon. But there's other parts of Maui that's, absolutely inhabitable. But yeah, the government is saying
when I see the on television, when I see the film, I have no idea what the physical scale of the damage is. Is it something like a half a mile by 5 miles, or is
I don't really know. You probably just have to research it. I think it's not. It's probably not really that big. They talk about Front Street. That was the area, among
the main street.
That was like Lahaina town, originally in the 1800s, it was a big whaling town.
Yeah,
And
but it
the
was a densely
whalers.
populated area, apparently.
Yeah, I guess you could say that was what Maui would have as far as the city, or the
Yeah.
city is concerned. It was a big tourist area, but a lot of local people lived there. Yeah.
I have a second
We
cousin.
need to get back to moving. I've already been getting some texts from my children, so I know we're going a little past our time, but I do want to call our business meeting to order and get to the business, because there's a couple of really important things I want to say before we end our time together. I would like to ask Joni if she would read the minutes or show the minutes of our last meeting that we had together.
I'm trying to share the screen, but it's very slow.
Okay,
David, do it.
there we go. Perfect.
No, I don't see it, but I'm stuck, David. I don't see it. That's okay. Can you read it?
Yeah.
Can everybody see the minutes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I can't. It's okay.
Yeah. Keep going.
So the meeting was called to order at 3:50 by Darlene Stanley, the president. We welcomed 25 participants from as far away as Hawaii. A moment of silence was held for those Stanleys that we have lost. Each participant introduced themselves, where they were from, and their Stanley lineage. We had a couple of relatives who represented the 10th generation. Joni Fawcett, our secretary, presented the annual meeting minutes to the members. The motion was made by Ruth Kuntz to accept the minutes and seconded by Dawn Stanley. Motion approved. David Fawcett reported the 2021 income of $2,632, expense of $1,452 for a net of $1,180. Of 6/21/22, the cash on hand in checking and savings was $21,320. There are 49 members from more members, and motion was made by Mark Stanley to accept the treasurer's and membership reports, and seconded by Dawn Stanley. Motion approved. The video Quakers and the Underground Railroad was shared. Open discussion led to sharing personal family stories, genealogy websites, genealogy software, submission of articles for August 2022 newsletter, and other resources. The meeting was adjourned at 5:30.
Oh, we froze.
I know, dear. It's just
Bless your hearts. Okay, I think we will approve those minutes. from last meeting.
I'd like to second, if I could, Darlene. Mark Stanley.
You may. Mark Stanley seconded. Motion approved. All right. We can go on to the treasurer's report.
Well, the treasurer's report is somewhat different than it has been in years past, because we are no longer charging members any dues. So we currently have $19,368.72 in our two accounts. Our expenses have been greatly reduced. They consist mainly of our insurance for directors and operators insurance, and for printing the newsletter and mailing it out to the people who don't have email addresses. So because we're emailing most of them, we have stopped using a professional printer to print and distribute the newsletters. And Joni and I have been doing it ourselves. We currently have the same number of people on our database, 149 people, and that includes 5 libraries. So when we do a newsletter, we email to 123 of them, and we snail mail to the balance of them. We're going to have a discussion about whether the newsletter needs to continue or not at some point. I guess, are there any questions about the treasurer's report? Okay.
David, if you have it in front of you, how'd the book sales go this year? I know they're apparently they're very down. I don't think I've had one in 6 or 8 months now.
I believe we had a few book sales at one time to one person who wanted to give them to libraries, and that was it. And we have put the book sales information in our newsletter every month, the 3 times we do it each year, and have gotten very little response. We have stopped printing new editions of the newsletters, even though we accrued money for that. That's where the $19,000 came in, was we thought we would start printing another edition, but we're doing it all online now. So, the chances of us selling another volume to a member, I think, are very slim. So that needs to be another discussion. What are we going to do with the volumes we have left on hand?
Quick question, David. How much came in last year? None, probably, except for book sales, if there were any. And how much went out? Do you have that in front of you, or?
I do not. I did not calculate that. We spent a little bit of money on postage. We have an $868 bill for our directors and officers insurance each year. I know that went out, but I did not write those down.
That's okay. I just curious.
And we do pay for Zoom. That would be Zoom fee.
We have to pay for Zoom. We have to pay GoDaddy for our website, our Facebook page. So I would guess that all those expenses are about $1,200 a year. And I think if you compare the number that was in the minutes from last year, which I don't have in front of me, and the 19,368, that's probably pretty close to what happened.
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't questioning it or anything. I just was wondering because I know membership's down, and also book sales, like you say, have not been forthcoming, and you're not collecting memberships because you don't have a account to do that. Who was it that passed away that did the accounting? I mean, that did the memberships. Was it somebody else that?
Stanley White.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, there are no more. David, will you explain the dues? There aren't any dues.
Yeah, we haven't been collecting dues. Yeah.
Because we are not having reunions in person, because we are not printing books, and we have the $20,000 in the bank, we stopped collecting dues. And so everybody that was on the membership list 3 years ago is still on the membership list and will continue to be. And that's who we invited to this reunion, for instance, 149 people.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you, David and Joan, though, because I've dealt with you with ordering books and other stuff. So I want to thank you for the services you guys have done. Awesome.
You're welcome.
Another word about the books. They are still back behind my girlfriend there, and they take up all of one bay back there. And about half of them are in a large closet in the house too, so they're safe and sound. I'm 78 years old. I do have some health problems, nothing lethal at this point, although I did have to stop driving recently because of the probably neuropathy. I can't feel the pedals, but that's not going to make a big difference here. So I just want to let you know that things are stable here. We won't be here forever, but it's okay now.
Is it possible that maybe we should lower the cost of the books and really suggest again that people look for their local genealogical and state genealogical societies to try to get those books in there, at least volume 1?
Well, what my feeling is, and this was, the other thing on the agenda, is we really need to have a separate meeting to discuss all of these issues, the future of the organization, the books. We still have, I think, some swag in terms of t-shirts. I don't know if we still have watches and hats or not.
Hats. There are hats.
There are some hats. So that's the other thing I had on the agenda is we really need I association to if you're here tonight to weigh in as to when we could maybe set a maybe October, maybe whenever it would be convenient, another meeting where this is all we talk about, because we can't just close this organization down. And I don't think people really want to, but there's so many things that we need to discuss that we don't have time to do in this meeting. And
something to think about the books. I promise this is the last thing I'll say. Even if the approximately 850 books are gone, the books will still be here. I have, and I don't distribute them, I don't do anything with them, but I have all of the 6 books digitized and into flip books, which can be a separate, an individual file that you can put on a CD and sell it to somebody. And so you're sitting there with the book and you can just flip the pages and it's searchable. So, you know,
yeah,
and it costs about $3 or $4, maybe $4 to produce a copy of one. You're looking at the cost of a CD plus the case it goes in. I do the artwork here on a color computer, so that's the printer. That's no problem.
and that's information we really need to get out to the membership too, about how to do that and what that's all about. David?
May I suggest a meeting of the executive committee, but open to all members on September 20th or 23rd?
Something's happening about there. September 20th.
We'll say September.
It may be a doctor's appointment. It's probably a doctor's appointment.
Well, my
23rd
thinking
is a Saturday.
my thinking is an evening meeting, because those of us who still work, not me, might have some issues with that. So I was thinking about an evening meeting on the 20th or the 23rd.
We also said, David, we also said the 26th and the 30th.
I have other dates if, yeah.
Well, the 26th is during the week and I do still work and my hours are very long. So I really need it to be a weekend, either a Friday or a weekend.
What date would work for you?
If we do it in September, I could do the 22nd or the 23rd. That's a Friday or Saturday. Or even that Sunday, if folks wanted to do that.
So
if we want to do it in September.
Yeah, so the 23rd is good for Joni and I. How about the rest of you?
We really need as many people as possible of the association that can meet and have this discussion.
We would put it out to the membership so that they could join too. So 6 o'clock?
Yeah, I'm that
6 o'clock, which Eastern?
You mean
Eastern Daylight Time.
On the 23rd?
Saturday, the 23rd?
Yeah.
That's great with me.
Yeah, Mark and Al, Karen, and you know, all of you are more than welcome, because we'll put our heads together.
Yeah,
we'll have to check with Dan, who's out of the country.
I don't know if he'll be back. He just left.
Well, maybe what we could do is send an email out this weekend to everybody, inviting everybody, and encouraging everybody that it's crucial that we have as many people as possible weigh in as to, you know, the future in terms of reunions, in terms of the books, in terms of the cash, and, you know, it's kind of the everything.
I had to
Darlene,
get my date book. Did you decide on a date or time?
Saturday, the 23rd.
At 6 p.m.
Eastern Daylight Time.
23rd,
on the
23.
Darlene, if you write up an email about that, we will send it out.
Okay, because I do want to say, you know, all of our officers, their terms ended either last year or this year. So we're not having elections because we're at a standstill. So, okay, I will make a note to create an email that you guys can, if you would send it, about Saturday, the 23rd at 6 p.m.
And that's Eastern time?
Eastern time, 6 p.m.
What day of the week?
Saturday. And that's September, right? We're talking September.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And did you see that messages that are coming in here?
Books.
Richard,
I saw something about a book.
yeah, Richard, are you interested in books? Let's see.
Book 4.
You want-
Lori,
Okay, I'm trying to go back here. Karen wants some books too, I think.
Karen. And we'll send you the list and information.
Yeah, you can just email it to me. I sent my email. I think I put my email in the chat.
Well, if you all have the last newsletter, there's instructions on how to, I'm trying to find my piece of paper, how to get books. You know,
Is that the January 2023?
well, either the January or the most recent, the August one.
I didn't get an August one.
I don't think we've gotten an August one.
Because David
We
sends.
didn't do an August one. We did, it was about the reunion. And we
And
didn't
about
put,
this Zoom. So if you knew about the Zoom, you got the August one.
yeah, but the
No,
August did not include I don't think it had the book.
It did
in
not
my-
include an
Yes.
email. It just included the August. All I got was an August. I'll double check.
Yes, it did. And we snail mailed them to people who didn't have an email address. The people whose emails bounced back, we snail mailed them. Everybody should have gotten one.
Okay, so David, would you put in the chat right now? David gets the payment for the books and Dawn gets the order for the books. Dawn over here, sitting up there with his girlfriend in the background. He's the one that has all the books.
Yeah, everything comes to me first because
The
I get
money
the money.
goes to David, the work goes to Don.
Okay, so
I'll put it
David,
in the chat.
put your information
I'm
in
the
the chat,
shipper.
and then
I
David
got
will send
nothing
it to
except
Dawn.
I got nothing except the notice for this meeting. 2 different emails, one in August and one yesterday, the day before. I did not get a newsletter.
So you say the email, I should have gotten an email version of the newsletter.
That's what he said, but I didn't get one.
I did, if
Yeah,
I did,
we didn't get August.
I didn't get one, I don't think.
And I'm
Well, I mean,
looking.
We found out about things through Facebook. Because our last newsletter was January 2023, and it's got the information about saving the date for September 16, 2023.
All right, that's the last letter I got too.
I got one.
Yeah.
I didn't get one.
Yeah, we sent one in August, guys.
I didn't get one, and my email hasn't
I did a
changed.
column.
You can email it to us if you would.
Maybe that's what we should do, David, is maybe email to everybody the newsletter if people didn't get it. Because
I didn't get it.
Sure. Can do.
Raise your hand if you didn't get it. How do you
No,
know, David?
We'll send it to everybody who has an email address again.
Yeah,
David, that will be confusing. Why would they get an August newsletter in September?
Joni, I'm just gonna send the page that talks about the books.
Okay, got it.
Well,
Well,
some of us are on the board and I didn't get a newsletter, so I don't know.
one complication about the books is that for some reason, Ruth's book was so good that we only have less than a dozen copies of it left. I think it's more like 6 or 8. So, you know, we have scores of the other volumes because altogether we have something in the neighborhood of 800, 850, something like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, but of course there's always the flip book version if you wanted to do that. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, in terms of the topic for the business meeting, what I wanted to share with folks is the current officers' terms have expired. No one's come forward to want to be kind of president, treasurer, secretary. And so this is moving us towards, we need to have a discussion about the future of the organization, what it's going to look like, what is it going to look like moving forward? And we do have, you know, we pay some taxes, we have funds, we have the Stanley store stuff. So it's not like we can just stop doing things, and people are still interested in us meeting.
Yeah, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization.
Yes.
So we have responsibilities.
Yes, exactly.
In order to
And so we
continue.
need to be able to gather and go over those things. You know, we can't just stop gathering and stop doing things. So it's really important that we have a core group of people that really do want to gather and put their opinions down and ideas actually as to how we might move forward. David?
We are losing Zoomers here rapidly. We need to have the drawing for the DNA kit.
Oh, I'm so.
Hey, I tell you, folks, I wish I were going to be around 20 or 30 years from now, because if the present trend continues, family history or genealogy is going to be a cakewalk.
Yeah.
Right now, because I have a large tree in part, and of course I've had the DNA. Right now, I'm looking at 300 or so. I don't know exactly what to call them, but it's instances where Ancestry has figured out that I and a person over here are related, and it tells I can go and anyway, it just makes it's.
Okay.
I know there are downsides to it, but
so let's go ahead and we'll conclude the business meeting, and however you want to handle the giveaway of the DNA kit, and then we're going to have to wrap it up.
Yes.
I
So
know.
David, you have the basket. Mix up the names. Yep.
Everybody's name is in here except the officers and board members. So I'm going to just reach in
Oh, it's here.
and draw one.
There it is.
And it's Al Ward. Is Al still on?
Al's right there.
Yeah.
I don't see him. Oh, there's Al.
Yeah,
All right, Al.
Yeah, I sort of knew that was going to happen.
Do I have your current address? Would you put your current address in the chat so that I make sure I've got the right one, and then we'll mail it to you?
Yeah.
In the chat. on the screen here now.
Well,
takes 5 minutes.
You're going to find out about all those offspring you didn't know you had.
In fact, I had a situation this week where a fellow who lives in my hometown here in North Carolina, he's not a direct relative of mine, but anyway, it turns out that he and I have a common ancestry. Guess who that common ancestor is? Thomas
George
won.
Romney.
Thomas won.
Thomas won. That's awesome.
That's pretty amazing
Yeah.
that you can go, you know, that far back and come down and be there.
Yeah, really.
Of course, my wife and I are fifth cousins. I actually didn't have to even, all I had to do was, I didn't have to do DNA to get that one. We, like I say,
I did not see Chad on the on the
That's
Zoom.
okay.
our ancestors grew up very close to each other.
Excuse me, guys. Al, do you have chat across the bottom of your screen?
No,
Or
it's not there.
or it's under more.
Under more. Al, why don't you give me your
What,
right now?
David, do you have your list? What do you have for
All I have in front of me is the names and the emails.
Just give us your address. I'll write it down.
My address is 309 Ortega Road. That's
Okay.
Ortega. Ortega
Okay.
Road, Raleigh, NC 27609.
Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We've had this for 5 years. It's been through COVID and everything.
Thank you all so much for showing up, but I have really got to.
You gotta go, Grandma.
I've got several things going on that it's good to see everyone, and I hope that everyone that can, you know, will get an email out about this next meeting so that we can really just have some time to think about the future.
Thanks, Darlene.
Thank you all so much.
Good job tonight,
Yeah,
Darlene. Thank you.
Were we going to do an honorarium for Mark Seaman?
Yeah, yes, we will.
I talk about it later. Okay.
We need to do that. Yes.
Yeah, let me know about the honorarium.
Okay.
I'll send it to.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys.
All right, bye.
Thank you all for all your help. Be well.
Bye.
Be well.
Bye.
Bye.